Good evening and welcome to the March 3rd, 2025 regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to invite Daniel Mannion and Kyle Bajo from Boy Scout Troop 926 to the podium to lead us in the pledge. Please, come on up, guys.
Scout salute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate that. Next item on our agenda is reflection, and I'd like to call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you all very much. Next on our agenda is approval of minutes, and tonight we have before us two sets of minutes to approve. The first one being from the work session on Monday, February 10th. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 5-0. Next, we have the minutes from the regular meeting on Tuesday, February 18th. What is the pleasure of the council?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carries 5-0. Thank you all very much. Next, we have our consent agenda. Tonight, there's one item on it. And what is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 5-0. Thank you. Next, we have an appointment, and I wanted to say a few words before we get to the actual resolution. Frank Johnson has been with the city for about 11 years, correct? Mm-hmm. He has been doing prodigious and excellent work from day one. He has shown that he cares deeply about the city. He cares deeply about the law. And beyond that, he has been a leader at the state level in creating and leading various training programs on subjects like open meetings and other very practical subjects that are useful in the day-to-day world of municipal attorneys. When our former city attorney and this mayor and council decided to part ways, the council and I appointed Frank to take over the role of acting city attorney. And we very intentionally wanted to see how good of a fit it was going to be. And what we found was no surprise to us, as there is no one who has a more thorough knowledge of our city charter and code. There's no one more reliable and responsive. He has earned the trust and respect of senior staff, his department colleagues, and our elected body. And it is always our pleasure here for all of us here at the dais to work with him. So it is with great excitement and hope and optimism that tonight, right now, the council and I have before us a resolution to officially appoint Frank Johnson as the city attorney for the city of Gaithersburg. And I will now ask the council, what is the pleasure of the council?
So moved. Second.
See how quick they were for that?
Before he changes his mind.
Before he changes his mind. Exactly. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Let's give Frank a big round of applause. I want to give you an opportunity. If you want to say a few words or if you want to wait till later, I wanted to give you an opportunity.
No, I appreciate the trust. You honor me tremendously, and I would just say there's if you ever look at the old Tennyson poem Ulysses, it's one of my favorites. But there's a part in there that says, "I'm a part of all that I have met," and that's a big, big thing that sticks with me now. When you mention me caring about the city, that's reflected by all of you as well, and you just honor me tremendously. You have no idea. For the swearing in, I would like to ask my wife to stand next to me because she has, through hard times and good, and Eric Perla and Y.M. Kamaza, the attorneys in our office, that's who stands behind me in the work that we're doing. And I feel as though the trust you show in me is reflected to them as well. And so I would ask them to at least stand behind me during the swearing in as well.
Sure. Leah, do we have a copy of the swearing in script?
We are getting it now. Working on it.
Okay, I didn't even realize there was a swearing in, but let's do it.
Yes.
You know, it happens to be the most awkward language.
It is terrible, yes.
But while we're waiting for Leah to get that printout so I can do the right official language.
Sure.
A couple of things. First off, I want to stress to the Boy Scouts, you all should read Ulysses by Tennyson. That's your home. That's some extra homework for being here. It's worth your time. Okay. Second, I wanted to give members of the mayor and council, while we're waiting, a chance to make any remarks that they'd like to make. Do we have anybody who'd like to say anything?
I'll just add, Mr. Mayor, you know, Frank and I have talked many times over the course of my almost 4 years on the council. And, you know, I think the way that you set it up was perfect, that the trust that we all have in Frank and in his team to give us the guidance that we need. You know, we're all part-time officials up here, you know, and we really rely on his guidance to make sure that, you know, as we're considering what we need to do, whether it's an ordinance or, you know, any other topic that comes before us, that we understand, you know, what our options are, where our discretion is, and where we don't have it, and that, you know, I feel confident when I'm, you know, making decisions that I've been guided because of the advice that Frank and the team has provided. So I'm thrilled to have you now in the full-time city attorney role, and really looking forward to continuing to work with you in that capacity.
Thank you, Jim. We'll go to Neil.
So, so first of all, it's become very obvious to all of us up here, I believe, that Frank is one of the most knowledgeable municipal attorneys in the state of Maryland in terms of, he's trained, I want to say countless, it's got to be hundreds of people, if not thousands of people at the Maryland Municipal League in various aspects of the law that we all need to understand, like open meetings and ethics and things along those lines. You know, it's the level of knowledge inside of Frank's head is immense. But what I've seen since we appointed Frank as acting is gotten to know him better and see what's in his heart. And there's a lot of heart there as well as a lot of head. So I think we've made a great choice, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you, Neil. Rob Wu.
Sure. You know, as an excellent attorney myself, I like to, it's probably the best attorney I know, but I learned to appreciate other high caliber attorneys as well. And so, you know, my vote here is not taken lightly. I think over the, actually my 10 years, my entire time here, we've gotten to know each other, and you provide top-notch legal advice, and that's what we need from a city attorney. So,
and with that, if you'd like to speak, you're welcome to. I have the swearing-in script. So,
just very briefly, Frank has a very interesting background where he was an elected official, and now he works in staff. So it's a very helpful perspective, at least for a new council member like me, to talk to somebody who's been in sort of both sides of the aisle. So I really appreciate that.
Lisa.
Thank you. I'm so happy tonight that this is final and you are here. You just make it easy. I love when I ask a question that I'm stressed out about and you just so easily give the answer. Okay. And it just the ability to calm because of your knowledge and the trust that's there. So thank you for always being that person.
Excellent.
You thank all of you.
All right. So let's do the swearing in. Okay, I'll be over here. You be over here.
that'll be.
Would you like to introduce everybody?
Sure. Well, the lovely lady here in red, the lady in red is my wife, Donna Dare Johnson, and we have Assistant City Attorney Wyam Kumaza, and Assistant City Attorney 2, Eric Perla. Eric has been with us since 2021, so going on 4 years, and Wyam is going on a year. So,
All right. I want you
Thank
guys
you
to
all.
be like right here, so because I want you caught in the pictures too. Okay. You're not getting out of that. Okay, Frank, you right in front of me. Yeah, I'm with you. Don. Yeah. Okay. You hold up that hand
there we go.
and repeat after me. I, Frank Johnson,
I, Frank Johnson,
do affirm
do affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office
execute the office
of City Attorney
of City Attorney
of the City of Gaithersburg,
of the City of Gaithersburg,
according to the Constitution,
according to the Constitution,
the laws of this state,
the laws of this state,
and the Gaithersburg City Charter and Code.
and the Gaithersburg City Charter and Code.
Congratulations.
And I did check to see if there's a way around maybe revising that, and there is not.
Yes, this is
That's
state
pretty
law. It
much
has to
called
be
for.
these words. So you sign first and I'll sign it. It's official. Great. All right. Congratulations. Thanks everyone for being with us.
You know you had the right name title.
Okay, next I'm going to invite Tanisha up here. We're going to do quarterly employee recognition.
We have plaques to present today.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Good evening, everyone. Tanisha Briley, City Manager. It is my pleasure to follow the appointment of Frank. I want to say congratulations to Frank.
Thank you.
Very excited to have him in the permanent role, and Frank actually leads the effort that I'm about to discuss. So I get to present our fourth quarter 2024 Employee and Team Recognition Awards. I want to congratulate the winners of the City Employee Recognition Awards for the fourth quarter, which covers the months of October, November, and December. For this quarter, city staff submitted a total of 6 nominations, reflecting nominations from 4 departments and a wide range of outstanding public service being provided by our city staff. Nominations and awards are based on criteria that embodies the city's 5 core values: accountability, caring, excellence, integrity, and teamwork. We call it ACET for short. The Employee Recognition Committee, head by Frank Johnson, reviews all of the nominations and looks for opportunities to highlight outstanding public service from city staff. The committee seeks to ensure that the awards reflect our core values and symbolizes the city's highest quality of service and quality of work. These awards should, even in recognizing the winners, serve also as an inspiration as a standard of leadership and excellence. The winner of the 2024 Fourth Quarter Employee Recognition Award is Jasmine Forbes. Jasmine. Jasmine is now our Community Planning Manager for the Department of Planning and Code Administration. She was nominated for providing regular assistance within the department, always being willing to help where needed, taking on additional roles to fill in when there have been position vacancies, all while maintaining her regular workload at a high quality. One of these vacancies, was the Community Planning Manager, which was vacated by Greg Mann, who was promoted to Department Director last year. Now that she's been promoted to this role, we will continue to benefit from all of Jasmine's service in offering guidance, assistance, and mentoring her staff. Congratulations, Jasmine.
Thank you.
We are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right. Now, the winner of the Fourth Quarter Employee Recognition Team Award was the Holiday Giving Team, which included Community Services Special Projects Coordinator Christine Chigonia, Senior Program Coordinator Grants Management Mary Armbruster, Community Services Division Manager Renee Nicolosi. They were nominated after a remarkably successful holiday giving program for their determination and commitment in making it possible. This year's holiday giving campaign was one of the most successful, with $23,385 raised as a near record amount, serving 167 families, including 408 children. The holiday giving campaign season culminated on December 20th with a celebration at the Carnegie at Washingtonian. Families were provided with their gift cards and treated to sweets. Santa and his helpers were also on hand for photos. Dozens of staff members and community volunteers stepped up to help make the event successful and memorable for all who attended. Mary and Renee deserve the recognition for their determination to make the holiday season a happy one for those, Christine, Mary, and Renee deserve the recognition for making the holiday season a happy one for those in our city who needed it most. Congratulations to the holiday season. We're a little balanced. We got good balance. Thank you. Congratulations. It's all right.
Congratulations. I got it. Okay. Next item on our agenda is public comments. This is the time the mayor and council like to hear from anybody who'd like to speak on any topic that's not a public hearing topic. Tonight, we do have one public hearing topic, right? No, we have two public hearing topics. I'm sorry. One is on the parking permit program. The other one is on removal of the city from the county code related to the CCOC. So if you're here to speak about either of those things, just hold off. We're going to get to those. But if you're here to speak on anything else, this is the time. We ask that you keep your that you state your name and address or neighborhood for the record. Keep your comments no more than 3 minutes. If you have more than 3 minutes worth of material to deliver, by all means, use your 3 minutes and then just send us the balance in writing. We'll consider it just like oral testimony. Do we have anybody in the room who'd like to speak this evening under public comments? Okay, not seeing anybody. Let me just check on our Zoom audience. We have some people on Zoom. If there's anybody on Zoom who'd like to speak, use the raise hand function. And again, if you're here if you want to speak on the public hearing topics, then just hold off. We'll get to you on when we get to those. Do we have anyone on Zoom who'd like to speak? I am not seeing any. Okay. Well, then we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is public hearings. And the first public hearing, we're going to hear from Eric Perla, and this is going to be on our amending the ordinance to allow for our parking permit program. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This ordinance is to amend Section 14-17A of the City Code, which was introduced on February 3rd, 2025. The draft ordinance makes various changes to Section 14-17A. The current version of the code section as written largely mirrors the provisions of County Code Section 3148, since that section was applicable to the city until July 1st of last year, when this body chose to remove Section 3148 from the list of county laws that are applicable to the city. The purpose of this was to allow the city to establish its own permit parking program that better suits the needs of all of the city residents, visitors, and workers. Section 1417A of the draft code amendment is crafted in such a way that expressly establishes four things. First is the legitimate governmental interest in adopting permit parking regulations, the council's intent to establish the permit parking program through regulations, the council's authority to set permit parking fees, and the council's authority to enforce the parking regulations pursuant to City Code Section 14.4 and 14.5. First, you will see that the title of the code section was modified to delete the term resident in order to clarify and enhance the scope of the section to include all permit parking programs, including residential and commercial. Subsection A was modified so as to clearly outline the purpose of establishing the new permit program. This section is important to ensure the city's legitimate government interest is expressed in a manner that illustrates the current problems that current city residents, workers, and visitors are facing with respect to parking. This section therefore explains how the health, safety, and welfare of city residents, visitors, and workers are affected by the current state of parking. These consequences are specifically listed under paragraph A3. And finally, paragraph A4 asserts the council's determination of alleviating these ongoing issues to the extent possible through the enactment of parking permit regulations. Subsection B includes a statement of the council's legislative intent to enact the regulations for the purpose of establishing the permit program. Subsection B also generally establishes that the city manager's existing orders related to parking permit programs will remain in effect until the adoption of the regulations. This ensures that there will be no lapse in time as far as parking regulations are enforced after this code amendment goes into effect, but before regulations go into effect. As far as subsection B is concerned, I did want to advise two modifications that I wanted to present to the council prior to including the modifications in the code. The first would be to include the term sectors in addition to zones throughout the paragraphs under subsection B. As you will see in a later presentation for the regulations tonight, areas designated for commercial parking are referred to as sectors, whereas areas relating to residential parking is referred to zones. And then an additional paragraph, number 8, I would advise, or I would recommend to include as a general catch-all provision that reads along the lines of include any other regulatory provision for the purpose of implementing the city's permit parking program, so as to make sure that this subsection B takes into account all of the regulatory provisions in the regulations. Subsection C establishes the council's authority to set permit parking fees by resolution. This was the best way, the city staff decided this was the best way to draft this particular subsection. in order to ensure that if any modification to that fee is required in the future, we could do it in a manner that would not entail amending the regulations themselves. And subsection D notes the city's authority to enforce the regulations pursuant to City Code sections 14-4 and 14-5. It was the intent of city staff to draft this code amendment in a manner that was concise and includes all the legislative authorities necessary to implement and enforce the permit parking regulations. And with that, city staff would recommend that the mayor and city council hold the record open until 5 p.m. on March 20th, 2025, with anticipated policy discussion on April 7th, and finally, final action on April 27th of 2025.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions or comments before we go to the public for this public hearing? Jim?
I have one minor one, Mr. Mayor. This is more of a housekeeping question. Just the way that, it's really more in the regulations, the way that they're laid out. It's like a capital D, then a capital A, and then another capital A. Just seems to be laid out a little differently than typically we have it, where it might get a little confusing if we're trying to cite it. So if we could look at how that's laid out in the regulations.
In the regulations.
That would be helpful to me. I don't know if anybody else would as well. And then I have a question about one of the regulations, and would you rather discuss that
At the regulation.
when we get to that point? Okay, then I'll hold that question for then. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
What?
Did you have any questions?
Oh, the thing
I did change I included language in subsection B that states for the purpose of establishing the city's parking
I
permit.
saw that. No, and I appreciate that. The question that I texted to the mayor was, you'd mentioned a B8, but I don't see a B8.
That's that's the provision that I recommend be included, B8.
Oh, but where's the text of it?
It's not, I wanted to bring it up to the council before I included it as text, but
Would we have to reintroduce?
I believe it's not unless it's less restrictive, but
Can't wait to see your text then.
I can send the city council a text of the provision B8. But like I said, it's essentially to include, it's a catch-all provision that would include any other regulatory provision. So,
So it's not substantively
Yeah.
yeah.
adding any
it's a-
requirements.
Do you
to
have the
catch-all.
text? Could you read it into the record so that when the public comments on this, they'll have access to it?
So, B, the city manager's existing orders designating and operating the city's parking permit program shall remain in effect until superseded by regulations adopted by the city council becoming effective. For the purpose of establishing the city's parking permit programs, the city council shall enact regulations in accordance with City Code Section 2-10, 2, 1 through 7, and include any other regulatory provision for the purpose of implementing the city's permit parking programs.
8, and that what you just read?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Questions, comments? All right. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak on this topic, who would like to testify? This is a public hearing. Not seeing anyone in the room. Let me check on Zoom. I see one hand up. If anybody else would like to testify as part of this public hearing, please use the raise hand button. Tech team, if you could bring up Dolly Kildee, that would be great. Dolly, once you unmute yourself, state your name and address or neighborhood, and go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Dolly Kildee, and I live at 212 Summit Hall Road in Gaithersburg. So a major change proposed in Section 14-17A of the City Code is paragraph small letter C, which allows the mayor and the council to establish parking permit fees. Although the proposal doesn't deal with specifics of the plan, public presentations by city staff to the mayor and council included parking permit fees. I believe parking in one's neighborhood should not be free to some city residents, but for others, a privilege for which they must pay. And just by coincidence, yesterday, someone on social media shared an article from Maryland Matters on many people wanting to leave Maryland. A number of comments to the article cited as reasons taxes and fees. I would think that paying to park in front of one's own home might be one of those fees people are concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dolly. And I should note, Dolly is a former member of the city council, and we thank her for being involved and letting her voice be heard. Tech team, if you could bring up Jeffrey Horlick, please. And Jeffrey, just like with Dolly, once you unmute yourself, state your name and address or neighborhood and go right ahead.
My name is Jeffrey Horlick. I live in the Brighton East section of Gaithersburg. I look forward to enactment of this change. I was hoping that it would occur sooner. The first discussion came up approximately a year ago. But if that's the time that is required to review and for public comment, so be it. But I look forward to the council accepting change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else on Zoom or in the audience who'd like to testify? Not seeing any. I will note, I'll just note very quickly to both of our, and thank both of our members of the public for testifying. To Jeffrey's point that it took a year, he's actually underestimating how long this took. This took a number of years, and it's because what we've had to do here is come up with something that is as close to a one size fits all in a lot of that would work for a lot of different circumstances in the city. Some neighborhoods already have parking permit programs from a long time ago that is just sort of grandfathered. They exist sort of on their own inertia. There are some neighborhoods that don't want parking permit programs, and that gets to Dolly's point, which I will remind her and everybody else. This is an opt-in program, and it will require a substantial number of people in a neighborhood in order to petition for it and get it and implemented in the neighborhood. So it's not something that we're not mandating that there's a permit parking all throughout the city. This is a tool that we will be offering, assuming that this passes, for neighborhoods who have parking problems and want to try to address it this way. But it's going to be voluntary opt-in. So I want to make that clear. Any further questions or comments on this before we go to the record closing? Not seeing anything from anybody. Okay, so I will remind everyone, staff's recommending that we hold our record open until 5 p.m. on March 20th with anticipated policy discussion on April 7th. What is the pleasure? That's correct, right, Eric?
Policy discussion will be
I have on my sheet
April 7th.
April 7th, yeah.
And then final action on April 27th.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the council?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Eric. And next, you are also here for the next one. You're leading us in our CCOC public hearing. Please, go right ahead.
Thank you. This ordinance is to amend City Code Section 2-6. It was introduced on February 3rd, 2025, and tonight is for the conducting of this public hearing. The purpose of this draft ordinance is to remove Chapter 10B of the Montgomery County Code from the list of county laws that are applicable to the city. Chapter 10B establishes the county's Commission on Common Ownership Communities, better known as the CCOC. As discussed in prior meetings, the CCOC has not lived up to the expectations regarding its dispute resolution processes. Further discussed on January 13th, city residents will still be able to obtain training services from the CCOC if and when this council votes to pass this ordinance. City residents will also still have the ability to take advantage of dispute resolution mechanisms throughout the county, such as the county's Conflict Resolution Center, as well as file complaints with the Office of the Attorney General's Division of Consumer Protection. I also wanted to take the opportunity to provide some answers to questions that were presented at the last meeting regarding the city's ability to establish its own CCOC, as well as enact municipal consumer protection laws. As noted in the last meeting, Section 11B 104 of the Homeowners Association Act does carve out an exception to the general non-discrimination rule, such that it permits certain home code rule counties to establish an HOA commission that handles HOA disputes. The Condominium Association Act's mirror non-discrimination statute, which is Section 11122 of the Real Property Code, does not contain any sort of exception. None of these provisions expressly prohibit the city as a municipality from establishing its own commission akin to the CCOC. There were also discussions regarding the adoption of consumer protection laws for the purpose of foregoing the establishment of a condition and instead enforcing community ownership, community violations by way of municipal infractions. The state's Consumer Protection Act does permit municipalities to adopt and enforce provisions within the scope of its authority related to consumer protection. This could be interpreted as allowing municipalities to include as citable offenses violations that pertain to COCs. So this council can enact consumer protection laws that go to solving that issue. I would recommend that if this council's intent is to enact consumer protection laws, that they be comprehensive in nature, such that they cover all instances of consumer protection violations as they're listed out in the state's Consumer Protection Act, as opposed to a reduced scope that exclusively deals with COC provisions. On a similar note, and of actually particular relevance to community ownership issues, the General Assembly has introduced House Bill 306 and Senate Bill 866 cross-filed, which is currently progressing through the state legislature. This bill would create a common ownership community unit within the OAG's Division of Consumer Protection. If this bill were to be enacted, that unit would have various duties, including the publishing of COC information, assisting COC members in understanding the rights and processes related to those organizations, maintaining a database of all COC governing documents, and provide referrals to public and private alternative dispute resolution services. Generally, if passed, these bills would essentially provide many, if not all, of the services that the CCOC provides. And I can keep this body updated as that legislation moves forward. City staff would recommend that the mayor and city council hold the record open until 5 p.m. on March 17th, 2025, with anticipated policy discussion on April 7th and final action on April 27th, 2025.
Thanks, Eric. It's going to be interesting to see how that legislation does. I wouldn't, if I was handicapping it, I wouldn't think that this is going to be the year for it, because there's going to be significant cost associated with implementing that, and it's a really tough budget year. They're trying not to add, but I don't know if that applies as strictly to Attorney General's office bills. So we'll see. But yeah, please do track that for us.
Absolutely.
That would be great. Questions or comments before we go to the public? Nothing from anybody? Okay, Rob. Perfect timing.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Eric. So to summarize, what I heard was your review of state law. There's nothing that would prohibit us as a municipality from implementing our own administrative tribunal.
Correct.
Okay. And then the second point was you want to go above and beyond what we recommended and take on a complete consumer protection code within the city.
No, I was just giving you guys information about your authority to enact consumer protections.
But if
Whether,
we-
whether that's a decision for this body, of course.
But if we say great idea, Frank ain't doing it. Okay. Good.
Well, it wouldn't just be Eric either.
Right.
We'd need an entire apparatus to enforce consumer protection law across the board comprehensively for city residents.
But we need a legal eagle to draft it. Yes.
Drafting's just one step.
That's the easy part. Okay. Then I will open it up. Same rules. State your name and address or neighborhood for the record. Keep your comments no more than 3 minutes. Please come on up and testify. Join us.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Marcia Nass, and I have lived in the Kentlands for 17 years. In early 2023, my finished basement flooded in every rainstorm because 2 downspouts from my neighbor drained onto my property. After a violation letter was sent to my neighbor, he made drainage changes that continued to drain the water onto my property. Despite violation of sections 310-2E1 and 310-2B of the Kentlands Code, the Historical Trust Committee approved my neighbor's VCA despite my objection. In December 2023, the Kentlands engineer recommended connecting my neighbor's downspouts to the underground system. In March 2024, the board rejected the engineer's report, stating that the board did not want to interfere with the natural flow of water. This inferred that a man-made ditch and a pipe with a catch basin is the natural flow of water. In the spring 2024, I contacted Greg Ryberg, the city site development coordinator for inspections and permitting, to ask him what to do. He reviewed the association's letter and saw the flooding on my property. He sent an official notice to correct violations to Kentlands regarding violation of City Code Chapter 813, which is a misdemeanor. I filed a complaint with the CCOC in March 2024. In August 2024, the association responded to the CCOC that they had intended to move forward with the plan with the city if I released them from liability. The association effectively argued that they were going to breach the agreement with the city and continue to violate the law if I, who was not involved with the city plan, did not release them from liability first. After the association fixed the violation of law on the Mew, there was still the problem of the ditch. I forwarded to the CCOC an email from Mr. Ryberg stating that a hearing should occur as the board approved drainage that violated Chapter 813 of the City Code. Despite this, and my motion alleging 20 instances of bad faith, the county attorney recommended that the CCOC deny jurisdiction. In doing so, the county attorney effectively ignored the allegations of bad faith and the board's approval of violation of Kentlands Code and city criminal law. A City of Gaithersburg in-house program is desperately needed as a dispute mechanism where abuse of power can be properly addressed. Thank you.
Can I ask why they denied jurisdiction? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, is that okay?
Go right ahead. Sure.
Sure. In the meeting, the city attorney said it fell under the business judgment rule, which gave discretion. However, the CCOC statute specifically provided jurisdiction if there's a bad faith, failure to enforce HOA code, and the 20 examples of bad faith, which are there are more.
Yeah.
That is an exception to the business judgment rule. So you can't engage in bad faith and then say, we're protected under this rule.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Deb Wenzel, and I am a lifelong resident of Montgomery County, and I've been living in the Kentlands for the past 8 years. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight in support of the City of Gaithersburg opting out of the CCOC and replacing it with an in-house program. I don't think it's necessary for me to give you any more examples of HOA abuse. At this point, I've given plenty, as have the hundreds of other City of Gaithersburg HOA homeowners who live in several different communities, who have sent letters and emails and testified over the years, especially when the council was considering having the CCOC join having the city join the CCOC. Unfortunately, the CCOC has turned out to be a major disappointment as a way for homeowners to resolve issues with their boards. The services rendered can be quite different than what is stated on the CCOC website. Tonight, I would only like to express my gratitude and my thanks. Thank you for always taking the time to listen to your constituents, no matter where you are when you are approached, a community meeting, a fundraiser, a community event, even when you're out doing your personal shopping. Thank you for the genuine concern and empathy you always show when you are listening to your constituents' issues and the reassurance given that the council will investigate them. Thank you for the effort the council has made and continues to make to research the issues your constituents bring to your attention and your work on the best possible way to resolve them. I am extremely lucky and grateful to live in the City of Gaithersburg, represented by the mayor and the city council members and supported by its leadership. You always show up, always have your constituents' backs, and always prove that they can depend on you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Mayor Ashman, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Henderson, Councilmember Hernandez, Councilmember McNulty, and Councilmember Wu. Thank you, thank you, thank you again. And I'm under my 3 minutes.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it. Do we have anybody else in the room who would like to testify? Not seeing any. Let me just check our Zoom audience. If there's anybody on Zoom who wants to testify on this topic, just use the raise hand feature and we will call on you. Going once. Going twice. Okay. Well, we thank you all for being with us. We thank you for the testimonies. Any further comment or questions from the council? Not seeing any? Okay. Well, then, let me just get to my right page here. Staff recommends, just make sure I'm on the right thing. Okay. Staff recommends, as with the last public hearing, that we hold our record open until 5 p.m. Monday, March 17th, with anticipated policy discussion on Monday, April 7th. What is the pleasure of the council?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 5-0. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Next is from the mayor and city council. We're going to start with Councilmember Lisa Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, I had the great opportunity during Black History Month to read, as part of the museum, Black History Recognition, the City Museum, to read to some young folks, to youth about Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Yeah.
It was a great story, and because it was very nice outside, the weather was great outside, the attendance wasn't that high, but we had a 2-year-old who had enough energy for 40 people, so it was great. It was a great event after all. Also went to the Youth Voice Summit. Always a great event. Lots of nonprofits there that support the city and support our youth. My favorite part is when after the youth get together and sessions, and then they come to present what they've learned and what they would like to see in their programs, and and their high school and middle school programs. And food was a big item on the agenda, so they'd like for us to feed them more pizza. I think that's probably a possibility. And then last but certainly not least is congratulations to city staff on the new website. It is fantastic. Sometimes I don't even need to look anything up. I just click on it because I like the opening screen. It's fun to watch. So great job on the new website. And that's it.
Thank you, Lisa. We're going to go to Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also had the opportunity to stop by the Youth Summit, and it was great to see all of the students there and all the providers that are there trying to give our kids, resources and opportunities. There was one group that I spoke with that is focused on mental health, and just to see our young people openly talking about their mental health and wanting to make sure that their peers are doing well and that they have the resources to do well. I think I ended up talking myself into coming by to talk to that group in the future, so I'm looking forward to that. But congratulations to everybody that worked on that. I had the opportunity to join the mayor in supporting our city attorney over at Asbury's. He gave a presentation to the Democratic Club over there, just talking about the current environment with immigration and ICE and what's going on in the community, and understanding just what the city's role is and what the city's role is not. There were some really spirited questions and discussions, and appreciated the opportunity to talk to everyone. I got a nice note from one of the members, and I just want to say that kind of echo one of the things that we talked about. One of the great things about Gaithersburg is what you see here tonight is our interest and our ability to have an ongoing dialogue, that you're able to come in here, you're able to speak your voice. And when there are things that are concerning, like we hear tonight, you have the ability to stand up and say something. And sometimes with what's going on in the macro level, at the federal level, and other places, we feel a little bit hopeless. So we just talked about ways that you can get involved, and if there's something that you feel like you need to say, look for opportunities to organize, look for opportunities to speak your voice, whether that's writing letters, whether that's protesting, whether that is coming to a city council meeting and voicing it here. So it was a good discussion. I appreciate the opportunity to be there, and Frank had some great things to say, and appreciate his insight as always. Want to thank Troop 926 from Scouting America. You guys have rebranded. I forgot about that. So welcome to you all. It's great to see you here, and always appreciate all the work that you do. And Councilmember Henderson was saying that our senior advisory committee might have a Eagle Scout project for somebody. So we're going to connect with Scoutmaster Cooksey about that and see if you guys might be able to help on that. On Friday night, my wife and I got to attend the Legacy Campaign event at the Arts Barn. It was a fundraiser for the seat refurbishment. Anybody who's been to the Arts Barn, those seats have been lovingly sat in for 25 years, and we are getting ready to refurbish them. And we had a great crowd to see Don Dillingham with guest Tasha Coleman Parr. Great jazz performance. There was a wine tasting from Blank Ankle Vineyards up in Mount Airy, which is my favorite Maryland vineyard. So it was a great night. It was good to see former council members Mike Sesma and John Schlichting there. It was just a fun night, and it's just it was a great reminder of how important the arts are, especially in difficult times. The arts are really a great way to deal with your emotions and to celebrate all the things that unite us. So it was a lot of fun to be there at that. And then finally, it was great to join with or the Maryland Municipal League Montgomery County chapter, the meet and confer with our county executive, Mark Elrich. It's actually the first time I've been able to attend that event in my time on the council, and meet with our peers at other municipalities across the county. As you can imagine, there was a lot of discussion about what's going on at the national level and ways that we can support our federal workforce. And I've brought this up here before. My wife's a federal employee. My brother's a federal employee. We have lots of friends, some of whom are in the audience, who are federal employees. So we're just all, in unison, trying to figure out all the things that we can do to support you all as best we can through this. We'll call it a time of adjustment because I don't have a nicer way to say it. So just know that you're in our thoughts regularly, and we are here to do everything that we can to support you. And that is all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
That being your first meet and confer meeting with MML, it made up for all the ones you missed. The length of that meeting was excruciatingly long.
It was a bonding experience for the city manager and I.
Yeah. Jamil.
All right. Briefly, I was in Annapolis on Friday giving oral testimony for House Bill 1257, which is a statewide adaptation of an ordinance we passed here in terms of rental fee disclosure.
We passed it, and you originated it.
Very kind.
At least a key part of it. Yeah. So just to make that clear, I mean, it really is an innovative strategy, and you deserve some credit for that.
Amen.
A lot of credit.
So hopefully we'll see. It went through the hearing. It was nice. We didn't get any bad questions, and folks in opposition got a lot of questions. So we'll see.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Thank you. We'll go to Neil.
Thank you, Mayor. So tomorrow, I will be giving testimony on a bill that is sponsored by our former colleague, Ryan Spiegel, House Bill 1370, which is very dear to my work on the Council on Transportation. I wouldn't say it's innovative. It's innovative for the state of Maryland, but the bill completely copies what Northern Virginia is doing to create a separate fund that is dedicated to improving mobility in the region. That fund over the last 10 years has provided over $4 billion in transportation improvement projects, including the part of the Silver Line funding and other transit projects, as well as road improvements, bicycle and pedestrian. The bill is, last year, the bill was kind of a sketch of what might be done to try to familiarize the members of our House of Delegates with how this can be done successfully. This year, it's a very complete, fleshed-out package that has been cross-filed in the Senate by Senator Rosa Papp. So I'll be giving testimony virtually, but I'm really hopeful that this year will be the charm and we can put a commission together. Not only does it provide a funding source for transportation projects, but it provides a governance mechanism whereby projects are chosen based on a set of criteria that make sure that the most worthy projects are the ones that provide funding. It also provides funding not only regionally for the suburbs of DC, but for the Baltimore region and for the Southern Maryland region. And 70% of the funding is used for the regional projects, and the other 30% is parceled out to the local jurisdictions. In this case, it would be including the city of Gaithersburg and Montgomery County. So we're in dire need of improved mobility in this region. You Boy Scouts are probably not old enough to drive yet, but the highways and some of the Boy Scouts are old enough to deal with it. I had spent a lot of time commuting to places like Reston and Herndon, Virginia, which is not a pleasant trip during rush hour. So I'm really hopeful that this year, or hopefully soon, will be the charm and we can get this moving. It's going to take years, but we've got to start if we want to get there. So keep your fingers crossed, and I'll try to do a good job testifying tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil. We'll go to Rob.
Thanks, Mayor. I got a reading, right?
Yep.
So I will do the reading. After closed executive session, a closed meeting was held in person by the mayor and city council on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 at approximately 9:10 p.m. pursuant to a motion adopted unanimously. The session was proposed to be closed pursuant to the general provisions article of the annotated code of Maryland, sections 3-305B8 to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation, and 3-305B1 to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction. The topic discussed were the county's response to the city's request regarding the county transportation impact tax and the potential appointment of Frank Johnson, acting city attorney, as city attorney, which we went through with today. Present at the meeting were Mayor Ashman, council members Harris, Henderson, Hernandez, McNulty, and Wu. Staff present were City Manager Briley, Acting City Attorney Johnson, and Director of Public Works, Fields. Upon conclusion of the discussion, the closed executive session was adjourned at approximately 9:57 p.m. Excuse me.
Anything else to report? No, to report, not from the read.
Nope. Good.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank you. Thank you all very much. Just a couple things. I've been making the rounds with area elementary schools to promote the If I Were Mayor contest and our junior mayor program. I've spoken at Rachel Carson, Fields Road, and tomorrow I'll be at Washington Grove. And it's always a fun time. Councilmember Henderson and I attended last week the naming ceremony of the county executive office building for former county executive Ike Leggett. It was extremely well attended. In fact, it was a standing room event. And because it was Ike Leggett and he's a very popular guy, everybody in the world wanted to speak, and I was there for 90 minutes, I promise, and I did not even get close to seeing Ike get onto the stage to speak. So it was another one of those longer events, but it was very happy and very well deserved. I want to promote that the Gaithersburg Book Festival is coming up on May 17th. We have the vast majority of the authors who are going to be speaking at the festival, 130 or so, are already on our website. So you can check it out at GaithersburgBookFestival.org. A couple highlights. Dave Barry is coming back to the book festival. Wally Lamb is coming to the book festival for the first time. Jeffrey Deaver, the Bone Collector, he's coming to the book festival. David Aldridge and Joe Posnanski, terrific sports writers. Those are just off the top of my head. But there's Scalzi's coming back to the book festival.
Right.
He's a very popular sci-fi writer. So it is free to attend and free to park. There's no reason whatsoever not to come to the book festival, even if it rains. Bring an umbrella. It's going to be fine. All the programming's done under tents, and the book signings and sales are done in the activity center. It's at Boer Park. So find out everything about it at GaithersburgBookFestival.org. Saturday, May 17th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's going to be amazing. What a lineup. You're going to love it. And tell your friends and family, and you will be a hero to them. This is a very, very good opportunity for you as well to really build up your reputation as a curator of cultural things.
Does Dave Barry have a new book coming out?
He does, a memoir. It's called Class Clown.
Nice.
So with that, I want to note upcoming sessions. We have a work session next Monday, March 10th, to receive a presentation on the city's dwelling and population report and pipeline report. And then the next regular meeting of the Mayor and Council will be on Monday, March 17th, St. Patty's Day. And we will have, actually, the St. Patty's Day Parade is on March 15th over at Rio. I think it starts at 10 a.m., usually starts at 10. So please join us for that. For the meetings, you can come here in person, or you can join us on Zoom, or you can watch us on our YouTube channel, social media, just the same as you did tonight. With that, I'm going to move on to from the city manager, Tanisha.
Thank you, Mayor Ashman, and thank you for reminding our community about the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I was going to do that as well, so we hope that people come out for the best, shortest parade on the planet. So that's coming up Saturday. Just a couple quick things. Thank you to Councilmember Henderson for the compliments on the website. I want to also highlight that there are two very prominent resource guides right on the homepage, one for immigrants and one for federal workers. So please check those out. And then I just want to also just take another moment to congratulate Frank Johnson on his appointment. I can speak, I think, very freely on behalf of staff that we are looking forward to continuing to work with you in this role. Your nickname is emotional support attorney for some of us. And, you know, it's interesting to have a really great working relationship, but also an easy working relationship with the city attorney. And it doesn't mean that you don't tell us no, you just do so very nicely. And we find ways to work together to achieve our goals. So thank you for all you've done and you will do in partnership.
Awesome. Next, we have Economic Development Update. Tom Lonergan Seeger.
Good evening, Mayor and everybody. Just one item for you tonight. It's actually a top 5 list. There's 5 parts to it. Collection of public information on commercial real estate transactions through the end of last year is finally done. Recording of transactions in Maryland land records can lag a month or more after the actual transfer of properties, which makes now the perfect time to report on the largest property sales for the last year here in the city. In the spirit of all good competitions, let's start with number 5 with the sale of 405 South Frederick Avenue, Wawa. The completed store and land sold for $7.8 million. Previously in 2019, the former antique store sold for $2 million. It's just a property transfer. It'll still be a Wawa. Don't worry. At number 4 is the sale of the office building at 6 Montgomery Village Avenue for $8.2 million. 11 years earlier, that property sold for $12.5 million. The drop in value here does reflect the challenge that aging office buildings have in attracting new tenants. As we've probably mentioned before, the value of commercial buildings is based on the net income generated from rents. Third, the highest sale demonstrating the increased value of multifamily properties, Chelsea Park Apartments at 12-14 South Frederick Avenue, sold for $16.5 million. In 2025, the complex, then known as Executive Gardens, sold for $7.85. At number 2, we find sites associated with a familiar project, residential development of the tracts known as the Stevenson Metgrove. 5 of the 7 parcels that make up the project, or 70% of the combined area, sold for just under $19 million. However, the top sale dwarfed all the others. 800 Rockwell Avenue sold for $150 million. This multifamily property of 385 apartments, formerly known as Aventon at Crown, was completed in 2022, and in December of 2019, that undeveloped land was sold for $12 million. Economic development staff will continue to follow commercial transactions. This information, in addition to being interesting, does enable the city to understand the value of proposed development and to identify under-assessed properties, activities that affect the city's real property taxes and the ability to deliver public services to our residents. That's
Could
it.
you repeat that last number?
It sold for $150 million?
$150 million.
150?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
From a $12 million purchase.
The land.
Hey,
They had to improve it.
I know, really, just a quick question. That 150, how far off was that from the latest SStat valuation for that?
I'd have to look at that.
Okay.
I can get that for you.
If it's an easy thing, yeah.
Oh, it sounds
That would be interesting to know.
It's an easy thing.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You got it.
All right. Next, we're going to move to ordinances, resolutions, and regulations, and bring back Eric Perla and Tom Lonergan Seeger. And is Brian Helms in here? Brian Helms is not in here. And maybe, Eric, you're just going to handle it yourself.
It's fine.
Okay. However you guys want to do this.
I'm here.
Okay, so we're back to the parking permit program, but now we're looking at regulations.
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council. This presentation is to introduce the long-awaited permit parking program regulations and provide a general overview for each major section of the draft regulations. The regulations are divided into 5 main sections. First is the mission and purpose, 2, definitions, 3, residential permit parking program, 4, miscellaneous permit parking programs and agreements, and then 5, enforcement. The mission and purpose section explains the legislative authority to enact the regulations and also reiterates the purpose of the program as outlined in section 1417A. The program's general objective is to mitigate the existing problems, parking problems in the city by establishing a modernized system that aims to consolidate the city's existing permit parking initiatives into one program, create a framework that is adaptable and organized, and provide an equitable, feasible, and practical process to implement the program. Finally, this section makes clear that existing permit parking zones and programs will be automatically adopted into the new framework without having to go through the application and review process. However, those existing zones and programs will be subject to regulatory processes if and when they are intended to be modified or discontinued. The definition section lists a total of 11 terms that frequently appear throughout the regulations. For the most part, the defined terms can be best understood as pertaining to permit parking in either the residential context or the commercial context. Those terms pertaining to the residential context include common ownership communities, eligible households, residential permit parking zones, short-term daytime visitor, and temporary visitor permits. The commercial context terms include commercial parking sectors, city-regulated parking facilities, and eligible commercial entities. The program essentially divides the entire city into parking districts. Each parking permit district can be further subdivided into areas known as permit parking zones or sectors. As illustrated in definitions, areas pertaining to residential parking are referred to as zones, whereas areas pertaining to commercial parking are referred to as sectors. And zones and sectors will be created within parking district boundaries upon the submission and approval of petition as detailed further in the regulations. The residential permit parking program, that's section 3 of the regulations, establishes the residential program and includes various provisions that explain the general framework of the residential program, the process in which to create, modify, or discontinue zones. This includes the procedure for residents to apply for and petition for the creation or modification of zones in a particular parking district, the city's criteria and standard of review to be applied in evaluating those petitions when they are received, and the cause and effect of the city's decision to approve, deny, or remand petitions. The next section under residential permit parking program outlines the process for residents to obtain residential permits once a zone is established. And that these provisions include eligibility criteria, the application and renewal process for permits, conditions, restrictions, and limitations applicable to residential permit holders, exemptions of persons and vehicles from obtaining a residential permit, as well as the rules regarding temporary visitor permits. The fourth section deals with miscellaneous permit parking program agreements, and this section is divided into 3 main subsections, the first of which pertains to the establishment of a commercial permit parking program. The second is the integration of existing parking contracts and agreements the city currently has with third-party entities, and the city's authority to establish in the future parking programs for any legitimate governmental interest or purpose that may arise. As far as the commercial permit parking program, which is section 1 of the miscellaneous section, this subsection contains 2 main subsections. The first discusses the process and framework for creating, modifying, and discontinuing a sector, which includes the preliminary conditions necessary for creating a sector, the process in which to create, modify, or discontinue commercial parking sectors, which includes the procedure required for eligible commercial entities to apply for and petition for the creation or modification of sectors, the city's criteria and standard of review to be applied when these petitions are received, and the cause and effect of the city's decision to approve, deny, or remand one of these petitions. The second subsection of the commercial parking regulations essentially outlines the process and conditions for applying and obtaining a commercial permit parking, which essentially mirrors the same process and procedure for applying and obtaining a residential permit that's outlined in the regulations. And last but not least, the final section is the enforcement provision, which simply states that the regulations will be enforced pursuant to City Code 14.4 and 14.5. And as noted in the cover sheet, the public hearing is scheduled for April 7th, 2025, with anticipated policy discussion on May 5th and an anticipated effective date of July 1st, 2025.
So this is an introduction. I will remind everyone who hasn't been paying super strict attention that this is we're sort of taking an unusual amount of care and deliberation with this process because typically regulations can be adopted that night. Like you could propose it and the council can, by majority vote, can just adopt it. In this case, because this is a very sensitive thing, this is something that could impact a lot of neighborhoods, and there's a lot of community interest. We have decided to treat it more like an ordinance than a regulation, at least in terms of its adoption. So tonight before us is our intent is to introduce this and then to go to public hearing on this. So it's atypical, but I think it's for good reason. Questions, comments about this introduction? Jim.
Thanks, Mary. So I want to bring up the question I had about specifically, it's on packet page 57. It is under residential parking conditions, it's section DDI. It's individuals who have not lived in Maryland for more than 1 year provide a non-residential permit. So I'm just thinking about somebody moving into a neighborhood that has a permit, has a zone already. Just wondered if you could explain that section a little bit and what that ends up looking like for a new resident in a zone.
Can you say the subsection?
Sure. It's residential parking conditions, subsection capital D, and then a capital D, conditions, and then letter I. It's on packet page 57.
So
yeah, it's the only I item on page 57.
This was not.
You don't have it paginated the same way as our packet.
Okay.
Oh, I don't have them numbered. The
Yeah.
subsections are not supposed to be DDD.
Yeah, and that's what I was asking
Yes,
about the
yes,
housekeeping.
yeah,
So it's
I'll make sure.
it might be 13.A.B at the top, if that helps.
You just read it, it's short.
So you're talking about the individuals who have not lived in Maryland for more than 1 year?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So Maryland, the reason this was included in the provisions was because that specific state law, Transportation Article Section 13402.1, specifically states that in order for a local government to issue any sort of residential parking pass, a individual who has not lived in Maryland for more than 1 year must first obtain a non-resident permit or a complimentary guest card from the MVA. So in order to essentially not be preempted by this state law, that is why this provision was included in there. It requires individuals who have not lived in Maryland for more than 1 year to first obtain a complimentary guest pass or a non-resident permit prior to obtaining a residential parking permit from a local jurisdiction.
Okay.
So this is a compliance matter with state law.
This is a compliance matter with state
Okay.
law.
So then, all right, I didn't even know that was even a thing with with the MVA
Yeah.
to get any kind of Will we have the proper way to shuffle them over to the MVA to help them through this process, because I didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
We will.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ray. Yeah, appreciate that.
Why would the MVA want to be involved in this sort of thing? Do we know a rationale? Can we think of one? It doesn't make any sense to me.
They charge a fee for it.
it's what, I mean, it's what the state law says, so.
No, I understand. I think I will reach out to some of our state people and see if they can explain why that would make sense.
Good luck with that.
I
Okay.
understand.
Any other questions or comments?
No, the only comment I'll make is, again, relating to Dolly Kildee's question. These regulations are set up such that a neighborhood or blocks within a neighborhood or whatever would have to petition us and gather the support of the community in order to qualify for a parking permit. It's not something that the city government is imposing on areas of the city. It's something that people have to come to us and say, we need this program for the ability to park in our neighborhood.
Correct. There's a petition process in order to establish a zone first. And then once a zone is established pursuant to the criteria, then someone has to apply for an actual permit within that zone. But there is a process to establish a zone first.
Right. And the process doesn't involve us going around willy-nilly and creating
Correct.
these.
Nope. No willy-nilly part of these regulations. Would someone like to move to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, and again, this would require a public hearing on April 7th, anticipated policy discussion on May 5th, anticipated effective date July 1st. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 5-0. We'll look forward to the public hearing. And next, Tom.
One more time. Good evening again, Mayor. Each year, Congress considers and enacts annual appropriations bills and includes community project requests. Those were once called earmarks, which are one-time requests for federal funding that municipalities may submit directly to senators and respective House members through the congressionally directed spending process. Staff is seeking your support tonight in the form of a resolution to pursue federal funding through the community project request process for safety improvement investments here in Old Town. The projects for which we are seeking these funds were identified in the 2024 Safe Routes to School study, which provided recommendations on investments around Gaithersburg elementary, middle, and high schools to improve safety for students who walk and bike to school. Those investments range from new crosswalks to curbing to flashing beacons, along with new sidewalks in the Deer Park neighborhood. The total cost for this phase of the improvements is anticipated to be $1 million, and we are asking the feds for $800,000 of that, as transportation projects such as these typically require a 20% match to be funded through our own CIP. We have had some success with such pursuits in the past, most recently $1 million award at least approved through the CDS process to support enhancements to Russell Avenue. While we have yet to receive those funds, and there's obviously a lot of uncertainty surrounding the current federal budget, the process is open. This project would qualify for support, and we're going to go for it. Thanks for your consideration.
Okay, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't support this resolution, but perhaps the council will surprise me. If not, would someone like to move the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Brian Fields. And we're going to talk about 12 South Summit project.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Just a brief update regarding the renovation of 12 South Summit Avenue. We've completed our selection of the Construction Manager at Risk, or CMAR, contractor, who is Plano Cowden Construction out of Baltimore. Plano Cowden has extensive CMAR experience in this region, including several on-call contracts with local public agencies. Through their written proposal and their interview process, they demonstrated expertise in occupied building renovation projects, and they provided a thorough understanding of the technical and logistical issues facing the 12 South Summit Avenue project. As the CMAR contractor, Plano Cowden will directly manage construction of the project working in collaboration with the architect, city staff, as well as our owner's representative firm. The CMAR services will be broken down into 2 phases, with phase 1 starting now and consisting of the pre-construction work, followed by phase 2 being the construction phase. Under the CMAR delivery method, at the conclusion of pre-construction, the CMAR commits to completing the project within a guaranteed maximum price, a GMP. We expect to have that GMP by the end of December 2025. If that final GMP is acceptable, a contract amendment is prepared and then submitted to mayor and council for approval. Plano Accountants' negotiated fixed fee for just that phase 1 pre-construction work is $97,000, which is just below the threshold to bring this for a formal approval. But that covers all pre-construction work, including schedules, cost estimates, design reviews, value engineering, and again, concludes in their preparation of submittal of that guaranteed maximum price. So lastly tonight, the next milestone is in our process will be the presentation by the architect to the mayor and city council of the what we're calling the 15% concept design plans at the March 24th mayor and city council work session. That's all for my update, unless there's any questions.
That's great. Questions, comments? All right. Thank you so much, Brian. We'll look forward to that update coming up. Okay. Anything from our city attorney?
Well, thank you all again. You may have heard about I'm sure you did, when we talk about federal funding, the $330 million that over the last few days was pulled back on previously granted agreements with the Federal Transportation Department. Those impacted the Maryland Department of Transportation. About 2/3 were focused on EV, that is the setting up the governor's initiative to set up the electric charging infrastructure statewide to try to expand that. That's not everything. There are 30 projects that I know that I have been able to find that number, but they're not releasing a lot of detail beyond that. So it's obviously something that I'm sure Brian for Public Works and many of us will be keeping an eye on. But the main 2/3 of it were taken up by removing, at least at this point, the federal support for the EV projects.
I hate to end on a note like that. Do we have anything from any other staff, please?
Well,
Okay.
I thank you all for honoring me tonight. You certainly, and all of you certainly did that.
Well
So,
played.
Thank you.
That's a much happier note. Okay. I will remind everyone to join us for our work session March 10th to receive our presentation of the city's dwelling and population report, the pipeline report. And the next regular meeting will be on Monday, March 17th. And join us for our St. Patty's Day Parade, March 15th, Saturday, March 15th, 10 a.m. over at Rio. Until next time, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.
Record.